Welcome to the 10th Digital Pathway Seminar. This digital literacy series for small business owners is made possible by the Metropolitan Partnership Development Fund. It is an initiative from the Department of Jobs, Precincts and Regions. It is a collaboration between Bayside, Boroondara, Glen Eira and Stonnington City Councils. This week, we're going to look at how to measure your success. So today's seminar, we're going to start by looking quickly at the SMART approach to goal setting again. Then we're going to look at how to choose what to measure, how to avoid vanity metrics, the types of metrics that are available to you, how you can go about tracking those metrics or how frequently you might want to consider tracking them, and also take a look at qualitative versus quantitative metrics. So let's go back a moment to week 2 when we had a look at forming digital marketing goals. So over the last 8 weeks, what you've learned may have shifted the original digital marketing goals that you started with, or you might have the same goals, but have been able to really drill down more on the problem itself, the result you want, or how you want to go about something. You've probably also come up with some new ideas to build into your strategy. So before we go about choosing a way of measuring the success of your digital marketing, it may be worth going back and taking a second look at the goals you wrote down, just to make sure that the goals you have align with the new skills and perspective that you've taken on. So in digital marketing, we use the term key performance indicators when we talk about measuring the success of strategies. It's important to choose a key performance indicator that aligns with your digital marketing goals and is reflective of the marketing activities that you're engaging in. For example, if your goal is to increase the amount of traffic that comes to your website from your Instagram page, you need to be using Google Analytics to look at the traffic sources to your website and tracking the numbers that come through from your Instagram page before and after you implement the strategy. It can also be useful to measure something like your leading indicators. These are measurements that indicate your strategy is beginning to work, even if you haven't yet seen results that directly align with your marketing goal. So going back to the previous example, whilst a sign that the strategy is definitely working would be an increase in the number of click-throughs coming from Instagram, a leading indicator that this strategy to boost traffic is working might be something like an uptick in Instagram engagement, so views, likes, comments, etc., around any activities that finish in a call to action, encouraging users to go to the website. And you'd measure this via Instagram Insights. Now, ideally, what you measure should also be informed by baseline performance. So make sure you take the time to record your chosen metrics before you start your marketing campaign so you can see where you started and how far you've come. When choosing a KPI, you need to steer clear of vanity metrics. So these are metrics that make you look good, but that don't offer any insight into how well your strategy is working or produce any meaningful results. For example, if you've paid to promote your website via Google Ads, the number of reviews that you get is insignificant. You've paid for a platform to display your website to as many people in your target audience as possible. Users don't get a choice in whether they view it or not, so it has nothing to do with how effective your ad is. In this situation, you need to be measuring the number of people who take action, click through or call or book, not the number of people who view the ad. Another example is social media follower numbers. So if your goal is to create an engaged community online, boost engagement amongst your existing audience, then measuring the growth of followers, so the number of people who follow your page, is irrelevant. What you should be measuring is post-engagement levels. What a vanity metric is, however, is going to change depending on your marketing goals. So for example, if you're using social media to grow brand awareness, so if you're a new brand and you want to make people more aware that you exist, then measuring growth in follower numbers is an entirely legitimate key performance indicator that aligns with your digital marketing goals. Vanity metrics can also be useful when you're in the process of testing out a campaign. So in the first example I gave of using Google Ads to promote your site, looking at the number of times the ad is served might help you adjust your goal or review and split test your ad to see if there is one that Google Ads prefers, like a type of content that they prefer, a type of keyword, titling, design, or even you might even come to recognize that there simply aren't enough people keying in a particular search term to get you the results that you want. And you might then choose to pull the ad entirely. Now, choosing a quantifiable metric, this is a non-exhaustive list of the metrics that you might choose to use as your KPIs when executing a digital marketing strategy. Now, do not be overwhelmed by these lists or the number of metrics out there. Digital marketing makes it possible to measure more things in more detail than ever before, but that does not mean that you need to be across all of these metrics, just in the same way that you do not need to be across every single social media platform. It's not going to do your business any good. It's going to overwhelm you and exhaust you. As a general rule, you just need to be strategic about the metrics you choose. Small business owners should only really set aside 4 to 5 metrics as the KPIs for their digital marketing campaigns. So the ones you're going to choose are going to depend on the type of campaign you're running and the platforms that you're using. The list here, like I said, isn't exhaustive. The first column alone is just metrics to do with your website, and they're things you can find using Google Analytics. The second column is, again, more Google Analytics, a little bit of social media insights, some email marketing insights, and also some things you can find through a CRM. This might not be relevant to you if you don't have a website or you sell purely via social media. This is why it's so important to know what your goals are before you start looking at these metrics. So, for example, if I was an e-commerce site that wanted to improve customer loyalty, I might want to choose metrics like the number of returning visitors to my site. And I would look at that through Google Ads. Looking at the number of returning visitors would probably give me some idea of the number of people who find the content of my site valuable and want to come back to engage with it again or make a purchase again. I might also look at the number of people who redeem a repeat purchase offer that I make via my email marketing. So I would be able to measure that engagement via my email marketing platform. Very straightforward. Again, it would suggest the number of people that are repeat purchasing and whether they're engaging with the content that I'm sending out and opening my emails. I would also keep my eye on an unsubscribe rate just to make sure that I'm keeping a good number of people engaging with my content and with my brand. If you have a sudden drop in followers or engagement or a spike in your unsubscribe rate, it might indicate that you're doing something wrong. You're putting your customers off. They don't want to establish a longer relationship with you. You might also look at something like the number of times your Instagram handle is tagged in a customer's post. So you would find that information via Instagram Insights. So like we talked about last week, something like tagging your business name could be a real indicator that your customer is delighted with your brand and their purchase that they've made and wants to participate in your brand community. Your repeat purchase rate is also obviously something that you want to consider if you're focusing on loyalty. So that would be dividing your total number of site guests in a year by the number of guests who made more than one purchase. And you could find those numbers via your CRM. Now, if I was a new service-based business who wanted to build my brand awareness, on the other hand, metrics that I might choose might be something like, if I ran a paid advertising campaign, I might look at brand impressions. So if I did it on Facebook, I'd look in Facebook's ad manager, I'd look at the number of impressions, the number of times people have looked at my ad, or in Google Ads, I might look. I might look at website traffic, so the overall number of people that are coming to my site that I could find through Google Analytics. I might look broadly at social media engagement, so anything really, impressions, likes, shares, comments, clicks, follows, mentions, hashtags. This can all be found on your platform insight page. You might also look at something like search volume data over time. So that would tell you how many times your brand name is searched for online. And you could find that sort of information via a keyword planning tool. So how often you should track your KPIs really comes down to which ones you choose. So for metrics that fluctuate a lot and can indicate that early on that something's going in the right direction, you want to track it weekly. So something like site traffic or social media performance can really show you whether your web content is going in the right direction, your promotions are going in the right direction, if you're getting an uptick in engagement or an uptick in flow through. For metrics that take a little more time to generate traction, usually like actions on the part of the customer, you might want to measure that about once a fortnight, because once a week is probably not enough time to have your customers go through the entire digital sales cycle and end up in action. Metrics that look more broadly at your digital marketing presence and the effectiveness of your strategy should be looked at monthly. So things like your email performance, your content strategy, what your existing lead engagement is like, where your traffic is coming from, and also the technical aspects of what your site is. Those could also be things to consider. Finally, metrics that require a lot of data to produce meaningful results need to be tracked on a quarterly basis. So this would be things like which pages get the highest number of traffic. This could fluctuate weekly or monthly or fortnightly. So you really need to give it a lot of time to get a more consistent kind of number. How users navigate through your website, the user experience on your website, you would have to take quite a lot of time and you need quite a lot of numbers to get kind of consistent results about how people behave on your site. Keywords that lead people to your site, so SEO. SEO is something you need to take a long view on. How, where your site pops up when people type in a search term is something that you need to look at every 3 months rather than on a monthly basis. It's not an instant fix. And something like the performance of a landing page, if you've created one for promotional purposes, should also be reviewed on a quarterly basis, although this does depend on what your landing page is doing and where you're going with it. So a caveat to all of this, if this seems like an overwhelming proposition, the idea of finding metrics to measure what you want out of your digital marketing campaign, don't feel overwhelmed. Don't think about the metrics if you're feeling overwhelmed. Think instead in terms of what your customer's journey with your brand is like and what behaviors they might take online that would indicate you're going in the right direction. So if you can identify those, if you can think about how your customer would move through their buyer journey and what it might look like, on the other side to you or to a website, then I guarantee there is a digital platform that can help you monitor it or track it. I also want to take a second to say that measuring is good, but taking action is better. So just because we're exploring what you can measure doesn't mean you have to measure it. So again, digital marketing often gets bogged down in numbers. If you find them overwhelming and you don't want to commit time or energy into tracking metrics, then don't. Consider quantitative data. Ask your customers what they think about your latest social media post, or how easy it is to use your website, or whether there's something you can do to improve their online experience with your brand. These forms of feedback are just as useful, and if you actually use them to shape what you do online, then they're better than any numbers could ever be. So your workshop task for this week. Revisit the SMART goals that you set at the beginning of the course. Have they changed? If so, make those changes. Come up with 3 to 5 metrics that you can use to measure the success of your digital marketing strategy. Also take a moment to guess how often you might need to track those. Alternatively, if you're not keen on the metric concept, think about your customer journey and what actions they might take online that would indicate your strategy is working, and we'll reverse engineer from there. If you have one handy, ask a customer or a client what you could do to make their experience with your business online better. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you tune in next week.